Hard weekend. Lamar Jackson ruling himself out. What it means, what it doesn't mean. An undefeated rookie. Backups. Backup to the backups. And receipts.
It is time to panic.
They're at the drive-thru. You're screwed.
All with this panel. Pablo Torre, Kevin Blackstone, David Dennis Jr., and National Media Sports Hall of Famer Bill Plaschke.
Hey.
Oh, wow,
Thank you.
Bill. We are
Thank you.
incredibly proud. Let's go around the horn.
Thank you. I'm holding on.
How many points do you get for making the National Sports Media Hall of Fame? Listen to that.
A lot.
I'm getting carpal tunnel syndrome right now.
Probably enough at this point.
Does it feel to you the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson are on the same page, or maybe different pages, different books, different book clubs? The most significant news of the week, Lamar Jackson gave the status update himself. He's out. In his social media post, that his grade 2 PCL sprain is borderline grade 3. There's still inflammation. The knee is still unstable. He thanks people for support and concern, said, I wish I could be out there with my guys more than anything, but I can't give 100% of myself to my guys and fans. This was decidedly more information than the team gave this week and has given for many weeks. John Harbaugh today on Lamar's post, no, I didn't know anything about that and didn't pay much attention to it. Add this to the already very much highly publicized contract uncertainty hanging over both, and all of this feels slightly uncomfortable. David, whether you're more concerned for Lamar and the Ravens Sunday or Lamar and the Ravens down the road, what is this?
I try not to be concerned with the inevitable, so I'm not too concerned with them getting smacked this weekend because that is inevitably going to happen. I'm extremely concerned about this marriage between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens going forward. At the beginning of the season, everybody was talking about how big a mistake it was that Lamar Jackson did not have an agent, but the Ravens have proven that with all the personnel, they can screw this up just as badly on their own also. I have no clue what John Harbaugh was talking about. He's acting like he can't speak about when Lamar Jackson can come back, but all these weeks leading up to this press conference he just had, he's been saying Lamar Jackson's going to be here either this week or next week, this week or down the line, and he's been commenting on the injury that he now says he can't comment on. This is a mess. They're not on the same page, and it looks like we're heading towards a split, and if that is the case, the Ravens are in purgatory for a very long time.
KB, is that your read on it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this was a marriage. This is the beginning of a divorce right now. I've never quite seen anything like this, and it's been hanging over this franchise for the entire year. We talked about it during the offseason. We talked about the contract. We talked about the contract coming into the season. Then we talked about the disconnect between Lamar Jackson and maybe the team on the field with the fourth quarter collapses. And now here we are talking about this injury that the coach wouldn't talk about. He seems very disinterested in it. You would think that he would show some desire to put his arm around the quarterback who's been fantastic for them for 5 years after getting him at the bottom of the draft 5 years ago, and that's not happening. You know, in the first round, right. And, you know, if the Ravens really want Lamar Jackson, they've got a couple ways to go about this. There's a franchise tag. There's a transition tag. There are ways to settle this right now, but that's not going to happen, and it sounds like Lamar Jackson is done.
Pablo Torre.
Well, let's talk about the franchise tag, because that comes with a $45 or so million price tag, Tony, which is a lot. And the thing about the Ravens and what David just alluded to is the reason they're in purgatory is because they also understand. The reason why there is awkwardness like this is because they also understand how much they have built everything around him. I mean, the experiment of what's it like to live without Lamar Jackson for 5 weeks has been hell. Not purgatory, absolute hell. It's embarrassing how bad this team is. And so what does Lamar Jackson have to do? He's not going to play, so he's trying to establish via his tweet that I am too hurt to play, right? Which is a football instinct. I understand. It takes a lot for a guy like that to sit out, so he has to explain himself. John Harbaugh, at the same time, is clearly not happy about it, but also needs to understand, and I think he does, that he's still going to end up working with him, Tony, because it is shocking to me to even contemplate.
Okay, so you don't
the
think they're
Ravens
headed
letting their
for
guy
a
go.
divorce? This is the second year in
No.
a row he's been
They need him.
out for the last half of the season. The team has fallen off a cliff. But the fact is, he has been out for the last half of seasons now in multiple years. I'll bring in Bill Plaschke.
I don't know how they come back from this. I mean, Lamar Jackson, you have a star quarterback who's separated himself from the organization going on his own, giving his
So
own.
that's how
medical
you
report.
see it. You
He
feel
clearly-
like he's separating himself from the organization.
Yes.
Others
He's
feel like the
clearly-
organization's separating themselves from him.
No, I feel like he's clearly telling everyone he doesn't trust the organization. The organization is not representing him properly. The organization doesn't believe him. He thinks the Ravens don't believe he's hurt. That's why he's doing this. That's a really bad look.
believe
And then
that, okay.
Sammy Watkins had those quotes where he thinks that Lamar could hobble out there and play, and you wonder what the locker room thinks. I just think he's on an island right now, and I don't know how he gets
Kevin
back.
Black is coming back in.
Yeah, I agree. But the one thing the Ravens better understand, I think everybody's kind of alluded to this, is that they are a team with a quarterback that wins games for them and makes them a Super Bowl contender. And if you don't have him, what are you going to do? You're going to get into the draft. You're going to spend your first pick on a quarterback. You're going to look to make some sort of trade. There are two types of teams in this league, those with a quarterback and those looking for a quarterback. And right now, they are dangerously close to looking for a quarterback.
Pablo Torre, last word.
But remember the original sin here, Tony. It's the fact that they did not want to pay Lamar Jackson what Lamar Jackson thought he was worth. And so when it comes to the incentives here, I don't think people are acting in this equation so irrationally. They're just acting in conflict, right? Lamar Jackson doing what Sammy Watkins suggested. Let's be clear about those quotes, too. Sammy Watkins said he should literally hobble out, to use Bill's word, and he should just do passing plays. Like, come on, really? Like, that's what we want to see?
A lot of fans feel that way. I mean, clearly, some people.
I'm sure they do, but this is incentives in conflict now.
You mentioned a draft pick potentially for the Ravens. It won't be in the first round. They traded the first round pick for Roquan Smith on their defense. We'll move on. Chargers, Jaguars. Let's start previewing Super Wild Card
Chargers
Weekend.
are 1-2 and they look just terrible.
LA is keeping receipts. They have the receipts. They have Justin Herbert, but they won't have Mike Williams. He's out. What is now found out to be a back fracture. That happened week 18. It happened in a game that wasn't going to move the Chargers anywhere in the playoff settings. They were locked into 5. Oof. For Jacksonville, they have the streak they're on right now. Trevor Lawrence on the home field. In week 3, Jacksonville smoked Los Angeles 38-10. Herbert was working through his serious rib injury, playing through in that one. Let's start with the injury bill to Mike Williams and the position the Chargers are in now, playing from behind offensively, players-wise. And how much do you blame Brandon Staley for playing Williams in that game last week now?
If the Chargers lose to Jacksonville, Brandon Staley could get fired, and I would not be opposed to that happening. His job is on the line here. He was dereliction of duty to play Mike Williams in that game, who's injury prone anyway. On third down this year, Justin Herbert's quarterback rating is 108 with Williams out there, 61 without Williams. He makes the offense run. He keeps Herbert from forcing balls other directions. He protects Keenan Allen. This is a huge loss, and a needless loss. They knew that they were playing for nothing, yet he put him in there anyway. I believe that the New York Giants didn't play any of their players. Dabo did the smart thing. Staley did the insensitive, insane thing, and his job is on the line. I mark my word. They lose this game, he could lose his job.
David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, the Chargers social media was printing out all those receipts yesterday. They should have been printing out a bunch of excused absences for all of their players, which they could have used. There was no reason to play these players, and I understand Staley's talking about they had a limited roster.
They did. They only had 3
to
wide receivers, I believe.
They only had 3 wide receivers. Let him run out routes the whole game. You don't have to throw him the ball and let him get tackled. Lose the game 70-0. It does not matter. There's no reason to put your players in jeopardy, even if they're on the field. There are ways to protect them. There is no excuse for this, and I agree with Bill. Jobs should be on the line if this is the reason you end up losing the playoff game.
Woo! Kevin Blackistone, are you with Bill Plaschke and David Dennis Jr. here?
Well, sure. I mean, that's the most important part of your team, right? Your laborers out on the field. Mike Williams is a superstar. He makes the game easier for Justin Herbert. He helps score points. So with nothing to play for in a game, there's no reason you should play an injured player. Now you're without him. Not only that, you look back to the early part of the year when Justin Herbert was hurt after the Kansas City game. They were missing 2 of their Pro Bowl offensive linemen in that game against the Jaguars, right, where they lose that game. So injuries, play a role.
Well, this has been among the most injured
game.
teams in football for quite some time.
Right.
This year as well. You can't predict them. Clearly, Staley didn't want Williams to get hurt. Pablo Torre, I'll bring you in here.
Yeah, it's a question of risk, though, Tony. You don't know that Mike Williams is going to fracture his back and be out for 2 to 3 weeks, but you certainly know that you're risking it if you play him. And look, I don't think that Brandon Staley is Elon Musk, but he does raise the same question for me, which is how can a smart person allegedly be so stupid in this circumstance? Like, it's one thing to do it and be like, wow, no one saw that coming. The internet saw it coming. And look, the thing about Mike Williams, yes, they have Keenan Allen, and yes, they both missed time, so maybe the numbers that Bill and David were alluding to are sort of muddied, but no, isolate the numbers, the advanced numbers here, expected points added per play, EPA, the nerd set that everybody loves, or should love. You're a negative player. You're Justin Herbert, you are a negative EPA per play guy if you're only throwing to Keenan Allen without Mike Williams.
Okay. All right.
Less likely to convert
You
third
believe
down,
this
more
turns
sacks,
the game
more
then? Are you
interceptions.
picking Jacksonville in this game now?
I am picking Jacksonville.
Kevin
in this game.
Blackstone?
No, I'm going to go with the Chargers.
David Dennis Jr.?
I'm going Jacksonville, yeah.
Flashkey, you have a pick and an X Factor?
I had San Diego yesterday.
Well,
I have
I
Jacksonville
hope you had
today.
Los Angeles.
The X factor
I
is
mean,
Brandon Staley.
that's a problem
I've
right
changed
there.
everything.
Oh, boy.
I've changed
After
everything.
you had the 50-point bonus, you got 49 as we get in this segment. All right.
I am so
All right.
furious at Brandon Staley
Taking
right
a break
now.
right here. More preview extravaganza and Fireside.
That felt like a 45-point mistake, yeah.
Make a Hall of Fame,
No,
get a
not
50-point
quite.
bonus. That's the rules.
Right. When he started his Hall of Fame career, it was very different.
Kristen Wood blocking LeBron at the end of the first overtime. Mavericks winning in 2 overtimes. The Plashkey takeaway.
First, that was a good no call. That was a high foul. That wasn't a foul.
Good.
But my takeaway is all this talk about the Lakers needing to make a trade to get into the playoffs. No trade. Don't trade your first-round draft picks. Don't trade anything. This is not a season worth saving. You can see where LeBron missed his last 7 shots. He can't carry a team late in a game like this down the stretch anymore. He has no help. The rookie head coach, Darvin Ham, should have double-teamed Doncic.
All right, this is
several
a
times.
turn of opinion
Didn't
for you,
do
Bill
it.
Plashkey.
It is.
Unsalvageable
I'm sorry to
season.
say,
Okay.
they need a rebuild this summer.
David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, pardon me if I focus on the team that's actually going to be relevant in the playoffs. The Mavs here are the story, and they are I'm actually a little concerned because the Lakers double-teamed and got the ball out of Luka's hands, and he didn't score for the last 20 minutes of regulation until that 3-point shot, and they only scored 16 points in the fourth quarter. Teams are going to do this all playoffs, and they lock in on Luka and double-team him, and the Mavs have to figure out how to
Kevin
score
Blackstone,
when that
takeaway
happens.
from last night.
But this is the great thing, right? This is the great thing because now they can win maybe with Luka just doing facilitating, not having to score. He's averaging 40, 11, and 9 over his last 10 games. But last night, he got help from Christian Wood. Last night, he got help from Spencer Dinwiddie. That's what they need going forward if they are going to be a real contender for a title.
Pablo.
But I'm as worried as David is because when Luka is not scoring, as we saw, the Mavericks are the Lakers. They played him to overtime. I mean, that is horrifying. That is a top 5 team looking like a bottom 5 team. And if you're LeBron James, Bill, I mean, look, the question is, do you just waste a year with him? And maybe you do, but gosh, that's
One thing on
sad.
strategy,
Sad as I
Lakers
thought.
have to not only double team Luke at the end, they got to foul him at the end there, you know? I mean,
Yes, and Darvin Ham said he should have blitzed them.
Seahawks 49ers. Will it look as seamless as it has seemed for Brock Purdy over the last 6 games? He started that game in Seattle in Week 15, 11 for 11. So he has some success against the Seahawks defense from Seattle's perspective, looking for a path to victory. The 2 matchups this year were all San Fran. David, how much trust do you have in Purdy, and do you see him going into these playoffs as a strength for this team or maybe a weakness?
No, I think he's a strength, but they don't really need him probably for these first 2 rounds. Unless he goes full Delhomme, the 49ers should make it to the NFC
Full
Championship.
Delhomme? Did you say full Delhomme?
Yeah, you never go full Delhomme in the playoffs. I mean, this week alone, they're playing, obviously they have the Seahawks. They only allowed 1 touchdown in both those games, and that came in garbage time, and they ran the ball about 350 yards in those 2 games. They only allow 17 points on defense. So if he just manages the game, they'll be fine. They probably won't need him offensively until they play like maybe the Eagles or Chiefs or Bengals or Bills, but that's way down the line.
KB.
Brock Purdy is playing as well as any rookie quarterback we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. All right? His touchdown rating right now is better than Dan Marino's as a rookie, and Dan Marino was third all time. His quarterback rating is the best that we've seen of a rookie who's thrown the ball at least 50 times. This guy is playing at a
So your expectations are exactly that in the playoffs as well, then, right? You think he?
Absolutely.
Pablo,
Why
how about
not?
you?
With that great defense.
No, he is the right pilot for this team, and this team, this system, feasts on the run against good defenses. Now they get the Seahawks, who are, I believe, 8th worst in the NFL. Against the run, Christian McCaffrey is now on this team. Brock Purdy, look, we have yet to test him in the postseason, but the way he has surpassed every exam he's been taking, Tony, has been mind-blowing.
Slow your roll. You know who the last rookie quarterback to win a playoff game was? Russell Wilson 10 years ago.
Is that right?
This is a different.
Okay. Wow.
This is a different game here. I just think we'll see. I think the jury is out on Brock Purdy.
Just for the younger viewers out there, Jake Delhomme, there's a couple different situations. Jake Delhomme made a Super Bowl as a quarterback once too, David. You're talking about a 5-interception game he had in the playoffs against the Cardinals another year too. We'll move on. Giants, Vikings.
Exactly.
They played just 3 weeks ago, like all Vikings and Giants games. It was tight, came down to the end. There were 5 scores in the fourth quarter, ended on a 61-yard field goal. Greg Joseph was the game winner. So, you know about the come from behinds. KB, when it gets tight late, who do you have more confidence in this one?
I'm going with the Vikings. You just talked about it. Greg Joseph with that 61-yard field goal. And not only that, the weekend before that, when they put up 39, the last 3 points that they got to win it, Greg Joseph's foot again.
So you have more confidence in Minnesota, the way they've won tight games this year than you do New York?
Absolutely.
Pablo Torre, do you have confidence in Minnesota?
No, give me the Giants, who have had, yes, the second best defense in terms of just being incredible over this. Daniel Jones, first off, to rank. I'm re-ranking my order.
Okay.
Daniel Jones, second best QBR over the last month. The Giants as a team, second fewest turnovers in the NFL.
I think we follow
Yes,
what you're saying there. I'm re-racking points right now. And there we go. Flashkey, how about you?
I turned it over.
This is going to be a one-score game, and Minnesota is 11-0 in one-score games. They scored more points in the fourth quarter and overtime than any team in football this year. Vikings.
Some say that's a good thing. Some say that's not so good a thing. David Dennis Jr., how about you?
Last time they played, Cousins almost had a perfect game. The Giants had costly turnovers in that game. They still took a 61-yard field goal to win. I'm taking the Giants. The 6th seed is 7-1 in the last 4 years in the playoffs. The Giants are going to keep that going, and they're going to win this weekend.
That's interesting. Keeps the nation ahead of consideration. Turning the ball over, Pablo Torre. Yeah.
That was tough. Felt like Jake Delhomme just there.
Kevin Blackstone. Flashkey.
Pulled alone, man.
57.